Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back. It's Thursday. It's 9 p.m. This time round, it's a special edition of the Killer Comic Show. I can't even hear myself speak properly with these bloody things in. I'm going to blame all this on this fantastic guy below me, Mr. David Byrne, the co-publisher of Scout Comics and the writer behind State Comics. David, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Now that we figured out what time it is and what parts of the world.
Yeah, we have. That is a miscommunication on my part. I need to learn how to use Google. I'm all set up savvy for these computer interviews and stuff. But I still don't know how to convert the time, so apologies for that.
See, I don't look at the time. I just look outside to see if the sun is still out, and if it's gone in, then we're good to go.
I guess that's how they used to do it in the old days. I mean, Andy, we've got from Perpetual Comics, we've got Ben from Attention Seeking Geek, and we've obviously got David Byrne from Scout Comics. So thank you for all joining us tonight. So, David, how has it been since like Stake kind of took off?
It's a lot of fun, but you know, with the gap, because I know you guys talked about issue 1 back in January, I think, and you know, our experiment at Scout with the launch window. It's been torture putting issue 1 out, and then basically it's a full 3 months later before number 2 hits the shelves. And the big thing is a lot of people are saying, well, when's number 2 coming out? and then asking, is it going to be monthly afterward? And the question or the answer to that is yes, it will be monthly until the first arc ends in August.
I mean, it's been pretty great because obviously in the first show that we reviewed, issue number 1, we had yourself and Violet, who is Francesca. Obviously, Francesca Fantini is the artist. She's in the chat tonight, so thank you for joining us. It was really good because I knew she was going to be in the chat, and then all of a sudden you pop up. But it was great to have you both in the chat, and then obviously we've been speaking for a while, and we managed to get you on. So thank you for coming on and stuff like that. But it's been such a great comic to read over the last month or so. Issue 2 obviously came out today, which ties in perfectly to having you on. But you do a lot of stuff at Scout Comics. Like, you kind of, us three here, me and Andy especially, we like our indie comics. We've tried to convert Ben into like the indie side of things. How do you find...
I'm halfway there.
How do you find working or being co-publisher of an indie comic publication where they touch on different aspects that Marvel or DC wouldn't do?
Well, yeah, we're a lot different in that we're completely creator owned. So even your Aftershocks and your Vaults, they pay page rates, and they actually own the full IP. We really have a model where we look for finished titles and we publish them to the mainstream. And then we also have partnerships in Hollywood. So we're trying to help those people shop their series once they're signed out and released. So it's a lot different in that we don't really have much of a budget, but we make it work. The president of the company, James Hake, likes to talk about how we've grown exponentially, and it's true. Every year we've more than doubled our sales and our footprint over the last 3 years. And this year's no different. I mean, in the pandemic, it was kind of crazy, whereas a lot of people were struggling to get books out. Luckily, our printer was down the street and was deemed essential, so they printed the entire time, and we were able to get books out still, and even started a direct-to-retailer initiative last summer where they weren't getting books from Diamond, but they were getting books from us. So they still had something to sell.
I don't care what anyone says, comics are essential. Absolutely.
That's right. 100%.
They are, and I mean, I think it's been, I mean, when we first started this show, we was very much, apart from Andy, we was very much reading like Marvel, DC, the standard comics and stuff. But I think every single week as this show's gone on, we are swaying very much toward indie comics. And I think it's because you can kind of pick up an indie comic and you can kind of just read it, get into it, and then, you know, like in 5 or 6 issues it's done. When you look at like a publication like Marvel and DC, these things span on, and they've got tie-ins, 50 tie-ins, and it's so refreshing reading a comic from an indie publisher, because you can kind of get to the point, you understand the comic, you understand the character background and everything like that, and it's kind of like you enjoy it more because you get to the point in such a small space of time. With Marvel and DC, I mean, it just spans on for years, it seems like.
Yeah, well, and at any moment with the big two, it's like they could reset and it could be mid-story. I mean, we've seen that just over the last couple of years in multiple of their big titles. So we've also really implemented recently, to try to avoid delays, a policy of the series has to be complete before we'll solicit it to Diamond, because we may accept a series that is off a 5-page pitch, but we want to see more. Obviously, we want to see scripts and things like that to make sure, this person didn't just polish the best 5 pages and toss them over. But we and you see it in the indie world all the time. I'm sure you guys have experienced it, where you'll start a series and you'll get 3 issues in, and then it's 2 years later and you're still waiting on number 4. Yeah. So to avoid things like that, we've started to decide if it's a 3 or 4 issue series, it's got to be completely done. I mean, we can't solicit it, have number 2 come out and then be like, hey guys, where's number 3? But if it's a longer series and an established creator, we may make exceptions, but really we want the whole thing done. And that helps you, the reader, too, because that's the easiest way to lose readers, especially in indie, is if the book's not there. You can't get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between anticipation and blue balls? Very fine line.
But I mean, you like some of the titles. I mean, just to name at the top of my head, you've got like Locust. You've obviously got Stake, which we've been reading. You've got like Snatched, which is. I think we spoke about this. It was very fitting. My wife's a hairdresser, so this was definitely going to be the read of the week for me. But I didn't manage to get to my LCS, and they didn't have it in anyway. But then you've also got comics like Shit Show as well. I mean, these names kind of are gripping enough anyway to want to engage you into the comic anyway. So like, is that one of the first and foremost things that you think of? Is like, right, if we can get the title done and dusted, then obviously everyone is going to be gripping to grab everyone in.
Well, you would think. I mean, the title is obviously very important. And from a company that has Metal Shark Bro and Murder Hobo, you would almost think we go after titles. But really, it does come down to content. We're not going to put something out just because it has a flashy name. It's got to be good. I mean, Lunar Ladies is coming out soon, and that's actually, I know Marvel has Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. We made him change the name because Moon Girl is actually public domain, but we didn't want to be out there competing with Marvel on the title Moon Girl.
Yeah.
So the titles are very important, but really content is always king.
Because it's not just comics that you guys do, is it? I mean, you work on like VR content. You've got like touching into like TV shows and everything. So it just seems Scout is just absolutely killing it with everything that they're doing at the moment. Yeah,
we're trying. Right now, we have a partnership with Mosaic, which is a big talent agency in Hollywood, and they really help us shop our titles. The big thing we're looking forward to, hopefully soon, is getting one of them produced and out there, because a lot of options and a lot of development deals are great, but we really want to see the name Scout up on a movie screen or on your network TV.
Well, yeah, I definitely think there's like, obviously with the likes of Netflix and you've got Amazon Prime, they kind of seem to be taking comic books and transferring them into like, we've had like Lock and Key over the years that's been transferred to like a TV show and stuff like that. Do you think, if you were to say anything that you've got at Scout Comics at the moment would be to make it, would you say there's something definitely there that could easily transfer into a TV show?
I'd say most, if not all, of our titles translate pretty well. And in general, when you look at a comic, unless it's highly experimental, it's like you have storyboards right there. I mean, that's basically, comics are a much more highly rendered storyboard. And I guess you don't have necessarily to fill in as many blanks as you do with or on a TV show, because you're supposed to learn to read between the panels in comics. So it's a little different there. But, I don't think we have Long Lost and Hench Girl right now are probably our closest. And we're hoping to see them soon. I don't know how much information I'm allowed to give on where they are, but just those are the ones that right now I would say are definitely the furthest along.
No, that's great. I mean, we've got some people in the chat, and Chris Yu has said Scout is consistently our best-selling publisher. So, I mean, this is obviously a comic book shop and everything, but I mean, are you finding it obviously I think you've kind of just set up something with Diamond and stuff like that. But are you finding it that people are reading more indie comics now since everyone's been in lockdown, or have you find it consistent over the years that indie comics is slowly picking up? Because me and Andy and Ben have spoken numerous occasions that indie comics are kind of doing stuff that the big players won't do. They're touching on subjects that the big players won't do, and it's more here and now, and it's more relevant to read than all the fantasy stuff of like superheroes and everything like that. It seems like you kind of touch on real subjects.
Yeah, I mean, we have it's not a hard and fast policy, but we try not to pick up superhero stories because we figure that's something that's been done. And, we do have a few, Shit Show and Category 0 was for superhumans, and there's a couple other series that fall into that vein. But when we do things like that, that's not the focus of it. It's got to be more character driven. The indie revolution has been going on for a while, but I do think when Diamond shut down last year, it did turn a lot of people away from Marvel and DC towards more independent titles and things that were a little different. A lot of people are upset with DC right now, so I know there are stores who won't even order them.
Wow.
So, yeah, they don't like that they left Diamond. Now we are on the same distributor as DC with Lunar, but we didn't leave Diamond either, and we're joining one that distributes to Canada, and we actually have a very strong retailer direct program where stores can just order straight from us. They don't have to go through Diamond or Lunar or any of the distributors. So we really just want our books to get into people's hands, whatever way it takes.
Exactly.
David, can I ask that wanky interviewer question that you would have in a job interview where they say, where do you see Scout Comics in 5 years? What are your aspirations for Scout Comics? If you were to really hit where you want to hit, where would that be?
I mean, we'd like to see a couple of our titles having been either turned into TV shows or movies where it's, an actual finished product. Obviously, we'd like to stay the course and continue to grow our product line, see the books get in more people's hands. We've got the toy line that's coming out, so we'll have a Kickstarter for that, hopefully over the summer, I think. But we're starting off with a wave of 4 figures with a bonus one if we unlock certain stretch goals, things like that. We have comic tags that we're working on. It's partially owned by Scout, which is basically we are trying to do collectible trading cards that are also redeemable for digital content or comics. So really just we're trying to innovate and stay a little ahead of the rest of the field, but just growing. That's what we want to do, is continue to grow over the next 5 years.
Right. And when a show does get picked up, by Hollywood, and they need a chubby, dry Englishman to appear, then you've got my details, David.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned on the collectible cards and stuff, because we've seen it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it as well. It is starting to slowly overtake. There's numerous collectibles coming out. There's Pokemon that's re-emerged. There's baseball, basketball cards and everything. Is that something that you've kind of Scout have jumped on because it's kind of picking up pace, or was that always in the works?
I can tell you that James Hake and I were talking about this idea more than 2 years ago. It's just been with most of us at Scout having day jobs and also trying to help run the comic company. It's just slow getting to some of the things sometimes. So it's just taken us that long to figure out not just that, but the technology, the best way to deliver it, things like that. But we have now printed 100,000 cards, so we're definitely putting them out there.
Wow.
And would you recommend that Kickstarter style process to others that want to start something creative? What do you think the best and maybe the worst things about that are?
Well, if you think you can just turn on the Kickstarter and the money's going to pour out of the faucet, it doesn't work that way. You have to build a following. If you don't have a following, you have to align yourself with someone who does, so you can at least get eyeballs on it. because
that's why I come on this show, to be honest, David.
To be with these fellows.
And no one watches my channel, so I come on here in a small hope.
But it's interesting you say that, though, David, because I guess during lockdown, we've seen a lot of publishers, artists, writers kind of be more vocal on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and stuff like that. I think it's definitely a positive because it gives us guys here the opportunity to like have a one-to-one with you. It's because obviously the Comic-Cons aren't happening. They're slowly going to start picking up pace again. But I mean, have you been enjoying the social side of things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you saw it. If you message me, I'm pretty much going to message you back unless your first message to me is asking for something. And we've never spoken before, then I'm likely not going to respond. But I enjoy talking with everybody. I mean, I have a couple of diehard fans who've been with me for a couple years, and that they can tell you anytime they message me, I'm available. And you know, I remember when people support me. So like some of them, they get, when they order something, all of a sudden there's something extra in there that they didn't even know was coming. So, and it's nice we can have that direct connection. If everything I do is going straight through a distributor, there is no personal touch. When you have Kickstarter, anybody can message you at any time. You're interacting with them. You know, you can personalize it. There's a thank you page in the back of the book. So everyone who was involved is really involved because their name's printed in a book somewhere.
That's cool.
So.
No, that is great. And I think if it's okay with you, if we take it all the way back to like when you was kind of like growing up, did you ever think you was going to be the co-publisher of probably one of the best indie comic publications out there at the moment? Did you ever want to get into comics? What was your kind of aspects?
Well, no, because I was supposed to play third base for the Philadelphia Phillies. So that was my aspiration.
You don't do that as well?
Once a week. They only let me do it once a week. No, I mean, I've always been creative. Like when I was little, I would draw, and I wrote my first comic when I guess it was 92. So I was 10 or 9 or 10, depending. I don't remember what time of year it was, but then I would write prose. I mean, in high school, I didn't know that could be a career so much because my dad wanted me to be an engineer. But when I ended up going to college, it was just trying to check a box so that, because I really wanted to do film and screenwriting and all those things. So I basically taught myself to do screenwriting and film production and went for a liberal arts degree, but didn't finish it. I didn't bother to get a degree until 2010. So when I did it, it was in entertainment business so that I could learn the part that I hadn't already taught myself. And initially I was going to be a screenwriter, but it's a lot harder to break into the screen or into Hollywood than it is to go ahead and make and produce your own thing. So my first actual foray into putting stuff into the world was a novel called Shady Place that I brought out in March of 2017.
Definitely look to pick that up because I think, because you've had quite a few novels out as well, haven't you? Like you've had that Shady Place, and now I think you've got a few more, haven't you?
Actually, what I did, and it's part of what made me want to be in publishing, is I helped other people put some books out. So I had a friend who came to me and he's like, well, I have a kid's book I want to do and an autobiography I want to do. And basically since I had the experience of from beginning to end creating a novel on my own with basically zero help, I edited his book. I helped him put it together. We got it where it's on Amazon. He's done book signings at Barnes & Noble because they can order it. And people have enjoyed his book. And as I did that, I was like, you know what, this is something that I could really see myself doing on top of just doing my own product. So it's a way to kind of just expand my horizons. And, I like working with other people on their projects because even if it's not fulfilling my own personal creative dreams, it does give me the opportunity to be creative because I'm helping guide what they're doing, and it's fulfilling. So that's the biggest thing. It doesn't feel empty at all.
And I mean, I guess was it a shock when, how did your, like, you joining Scout Comics come about? Was that kind of like they approached you, or was it kind of like just a mutual agreement?
Well, I became friends with James Hake and Jim Pruitt, who at the time James wasn't even the president of the company yet, but Jim was the publisher. I owned a comic shop, and I had them in to do signings. We basically became friends. James I saw a few more times at conventions and everything. And then one time he was at my shop for a signing, and I sat down with him. I said, "Can I talk to you about Scout's website? It's really bad." and he agreed. He's like, "I know we can only put 100 products on here at one time." And I was like, "Yeah, you guys have way more products than 100. So at any given time, something had to be rotated out." So we basically rebuilt the website together. And then they also asked me to, because they only had one person doing design on the books and they were getting more titles. He knew I could do that stuff. So I stepped in and helped with the production design on a number of titles. And then just stuck around. Anything that needed to be done, I helped with. And when it was time for Jim Pruitt took a higher role with the company, and James asked Charlie Stickney and I if we wanted to be the co-publishers, and we talked it over with each other because one of us wasn't going to do it without the other. and we both agreed. And that was back in, I guess we started in July, which,
Wow.
In COVID times was like 17 years ago. So.
Jesus. Yeah, that is a long time. I mean, do you still, because obviously you've got Stakeout, which is a fantastic comic at the moment. I mean, we've got our resident vampire here. I took them teeth out. I couldn't, honestly, mate. I couldn't even. I
didn't know that teeth in. I just thought you hadn't finished your dinner.
Oh, cheers, mate. I could hear myself talking, and I was like, "This just sounds ridiculous." But Stake is, it's kind of an amalgamation of all vampire novels brought into the 21st century, if you like, and I'm really enjoying it. I think the story's great. I think the art is fantastic. So a massive shout out to Francesca for that. And it's a really, really good comic. And is it something that you how did that come about? Did you kind of know Francesca already and you kind of worked with her, or was it she approached you with the artwork and said, "Look, we can make a story out of this and stuff"?
No, I had a different artist for the issue we kickstarted last March. March of 2020. I guess we've already passed March this year, but it was a Portuguese artist who, while I liked his art, it was very different. It really stood out. It actually kind of fit the story. It was very scratchy and everything, but the pace that the book was getting completed, it just wasn't tenable to keep moving forward. And I had approached Francesca because my plan was to do 6-issue arcs and then have little spin-offs that came out between so we could get ahead on the art on the main series. Yeah. And I approached her to do the spin-off. She was busy because I think she was drawing Artemis and Assassin at the time. And when she finished, she popped up and said, "Hey, are you still looking for somebody?" So I had her draw the Stake Presents Jessamy Kickstarter that came out last November, which is basically, it's a prequel spin-off. Where it focuses on the vampire partner from Stake. But when I started talking to her about the issues I was having with how long the regular art was taking, she said, "Well, I could draw the main series if you want." And I just said, "Please, let's do this." And the rest is history. I mean, she's knocking it out of the park. You see it. I mean, her art is
smashing.
As much as I love the original art, I can't picture the series without the art that it has.
I suppose this is a question for both you and Francesca, but that kind of black and white style with a splash of color, was that inspired by the likes of like Frank Miller's Sin City and stuff, or was that something you'd always kind of wanted to do with the text?
It kind of evolved from the way Luis's art was. It didn't lend that well to color, and the story, I didn't think it necessarily needed it. And I said, "Okay, I like your art, but can we toss in some color here and there, if it really is needed to make the story pop?" And he was cool with that, and it pretty much was working. When I gave that to Francesca, she ran with it. I mean, I was just looking for little accents. If you open the first couple pages of the Stake Presents Jessamy Kickstarter, they were just normal bar scenes, but the color she used was, she did the flames on the candles because it was set in the 18th century.
Yeah.
So you're in this bar, and basically it's all lanterns and there's a fireplace and things like that, and then she just carried it through. And as you've seen in the main series of Stake, which she started after that, she's now tying in the colors with kind of Angel's emotions. So you don't just get like color splashes of things that are in a scene. You might get Angel's angry, so there's literally fire in the background, which it's taking advantage of the medium, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because these are things that are much more comic, or if they were animated, you could do that, but you're not going to see that in a live action show or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's a particular moment in the second issue with the kind of riot, and you've got kind of, you know, this camp and this camp, and I think there was, you know, the use of color. I think it was like red for the, you know, anti, you know, vamp, and a softer kind of yellow color for the vamp sympathizers. And I really enjoyed that, and I've got to say I'm loving our work, and I think it just marries up very well to your way of storytelling as well for this.
Yep.
What we said.
And Dave, I was speaking to Francesca earlier because I noticed I was reading issue number 2 again, and I noticed, without giving too much away, I don't really want to give too much away for the people that haven't read it yet, but in one of the first scenes, it's the school scene, and on the wall there is a certain picture that ties back to the Jessamy Kickstarter. I thought that was just like a lovely little touch, and I messaged her and she was like, yeah, like not a lot of people have noticed that, but it's things like that kind of stand out, and it all ties in. I mean, the colors, I couldn't see this comic being a colored comic. I don't think you would get the same emotion and you get the same effect from reading it if it was printed in like vibrant colors and stuff. I think then pops of color during the action scenes, and as you said, when you see Angel's emotions and when she's fighting and stuff like that, really signify the story a lot more than it would do if it was in like a full colored comic.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I, at one point, had thought, well, maybe, you know, as a Kickstarter campaign or something, we could go back and color it, but I just don't think it would work. I don't think it would look right. It's
and
like I didn't agree with them recoloring
out from the crowd as well. I think. Sorry, David. It sets it out from the crowd. It makes it stand out, you know, and it makes it memorable. You know, I kind of immediately now associate that style with Stake. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, and like when they did it on the Walking Dead recently, I didn't think they needed to do that. I mean, the series had that tone with the grayscale that it really fit the dreary world they lived in, and you put it all in color, and it's like, well, it's not the same thing anymore.
No, this is kind of a running joke bit amongst us, because I kind of order comics and then I forget that I've ordered them, and then I end up picking up 2 or 3 comics, right? So unfortunately, I missed out on the black and white Walking Dead. So I was like, right, what I'll do, I'll start collecting the coloured versions. And I haven't read one of them, but I've still got them on my pull list. I'm still collecting them every week, and there's so many. There's so many covers, and it's just I can't stop now. I'm gonna have to collect them all because I don't want to stop halfway through.
I mean, how many issues is there to catch up with that as well? Like, surely, like, how long is the run? Like 50?
Yeah, 183.
Yeah,
Can I just say, David, I thought I was going to fall in love with Angel in the first issue, and the second issue made me fall in love with Angel. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but she kind of basically kicks someone's ass who deserves it in that second issue, and it was that moment where, you know, for me, we spoke about it last time, Erica Slaughter and Buffy, you know, those kind of real kick-ass female, you know, strong leads. I'm kind of holding her in that esteem at the moment. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we, you know, we can't ignore what exists. So as you saw, I mean, someone insultingly calls her Buffy. So that's basically acknowledging, hey, that series came before, but we're different, and she is not Buffy.
No,
but she can kick ass in the same esteem.
No, that is it. And there's quite a few covers that have come out for this one, and Firehawk in the chat said love the secret cover on issue 2. Now I know what that secret cover is. I'm not sure if Ben and Andy know what that cover is, but it is. I'm going to share the screen now. I don't actually think I have got that up, but I will just show the other covers that we have got up at the moment.
It's not the one I picked in my video this week, was it? The Jay Ferguson. That was the one I picked to feature on my covers.
Yes. So obviously we've got the cover A, we've got the cover B by Aaron Bartlett, and we've got the Jay Ferguson variant as well. David, I don't know if you want to just let them know what the secret cover is for issue number 2.
Well, it is nearly identical to the main cover that Francesca drew, but Angel is actually flipping everyone off.
Oh, that's so much better.
Yeah,
and that was her original art, and because it was going on comic shelves, I said, let's keep that, but can you go ahead and do something a little less aggressive? And we'll figure out a way to get the other version in people's hands. So unlike, I don't know if you guys have seen that we do on occasion the VHS covers for Scout titles. So it's the same concept where we mix them in at about a 1 in 10 clip to the diamond order, but we didn't tell anybody about this one. So, and it's very easy to miss it. It was kind of like the cover that Marvel did where Gamora and some of them she had a mask on and some she didn't, where they didn't bother telling anybody. So we did the same thing with this because I didn't want, and it happens sometimes retailers will pull them and sell them at a higher price. So we kind of we're hoping that some of those would just slip through and be on the shelves and people could just randomly find them.
Just sneaky ones in the corner like that. Have you got a picture of it, Charlie? I want to see this.
Do you know what?
Oh, it's not sneaky. It's right in the middle of her face.
It's literally, she's like right there. I actually think I might, to be fair. I'm going to see if I can actually find it. But if I can't, right, hold on. We might be able to find it here. I'm just going to go through the picture that Francesca sent me. Right, I think it is. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
That is it. That is it. There. I mean, that for me. If I see that on the shelf, I can kind of see where you're coming from, because if you see that, you're like, oh, this isn't the cover I've just looked at. I'm going to pick this up. And I guess some comic book companies now are kind of making a rod for their own back, because they're taking some of the variants, they're keeping them under the counter, and they're selling them for bumped up prices. With this is just, I personally would prefer this cover, but I can totally see where you're coming from, because it's a great
know what, it just completely sums up the character as well. Like if someone were to ask me to draw Angel and sum up Angel in one kind of pose and image, it's this, with that backdrop especially as well. Like, I love it. And now I'm going to have to spend money on it. Thanks so much.
Sorry about that. But it has, honestly, like these covers, I mean, and the Jay Ferguson one is amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is incredible. And even the cover B as well. Is there like a rule of thumb of how many covers you're going to bring out per issue, or do you kind of just think, well, this would work well with that, and we'll kind of just go with it?
I'm pretty much going to do at least 3, because I'll do an A and a B for Diamond, and then we try to do web store versions for the Scout website. We don't do it for all the series beyond number 1, but I mean, being the Copo shirt has its perks, so kind of if I want to print something, I can do it. And I like art. I love reading, but I love cover art too. So the more covers I have, the more great artists I get to work with. I mean, I find myself, like the last Kickstarter, I was only going to do 6 covers and I ended up with 11, because, I should know, if you're willing to pay, that artists are going to do it, but everyone I asked said yes. So I wasn't going to back out and say, no, I don't want it. Because, these 6 other people said yes, but every artist I've booked, I've loved working with. And that's one of my favorite parts, because I really started as a collector, back when I was little. I mean, sports cards, magic cards, comic books, anything. And the biggest draw, obviously, for comics is initially it's the art and the covers.
Yeah.
That's just carried through where I love the art and I love seeing different covers with my characters. That's a little narcissistic, but I love seeing my characters drawn by as many people as possible.
And
YouTubers, we're all narcissists, don't worry.
That is.
David, one thing I'm desperate for is the image in the first book that basically had every kind of, well-known vampire from popular culture, plus Vlad the Impaler. I need that in some kind of printed form on some kind of paper. That's what I need in my life. Are we going to get like a second print of the first book?
Second print is actually already with the printer. Yep. So it will be in stores. It's just a slight variation on the main cover where in the first printed version, Jessamy is looking away. So you can see her face is straight forward. In the second print, she's actually looking at us. And the trade dress has dropped into that screen that Angel's holding up. So it's a little different, but the same.
Yeah, because this is. Has it been as successful as you thought it was going to be, or has it kind of gone past? Like, has it gone past your expectations from it?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I hope for the best. We're not Image, or DC or Marvel. We don't expect to hit 30, 40,000 on any of our books. But I was happy with the numbers. We had 7 or 8 retailer exclusives for the first issue, which that in itself is flattering. And from what they've told me, they all did pretty well. So that's all you can really ask for. You want to make sure that first issue is a success to hopefully bring people back on the second, but also in indie comics, the margins aren't there. And if you're not selling 30,000, it's not like I'm expecting to make my mortgage payment off of each issue, and I have to pay for art and things like that. So hitting as much as you can on an issue 1 is fantastic, and then just hoping that the audience builds with each subsequent issue. But you can't expect stores to come back and do a variant for every cover unless it's something's killing the children. And then there's 40 versions of every issue.
You get 20 variants.
But is it because obviously you said like in Scout you kind of you finish the publication and then you kind of release it. Is there any is it a 6-part?
This initial arc is 6 issues.
Is 6 issues. Is there any? Are you able to say if it's going to go any further than that, or is it kind of? Is there going to? Have you still got the idea for the spin-offs to happen?
Oh yeah, no. It's just the first arc. That's 6 issues. My intention is to go 24 issues for this first main storyline.
Yeah. Yes.
Which obviously, it's a world with vampires. It can go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the plan is to do those all straight through Scout, and then I will kickstart the spin-offs, and eventually they will come out through Scout between arcs. So kind of keep it in front of people's faces. The spin-off we did last fall, we did issue 1 then. I'm going to try to do issue 2 over the summer and issue 3 in either the fall or winter. And then that's a 3-issue mini that after the second arc of Stake, the main series finishes, I'll try to release it through Scout. And in the meantime, we'll do another one through Kickstarter. So it's the idea is just to keep it in front of people.
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to work. Who would you say is your favorite? Are you Jessamy or are you Angel?
Probably a little bit of both, because it feels like every character I write has some of me in it. But attitude-wise, I'm probably more Angel.
Well, the way that you've touched on that is I can kind of, it's very weird because I'm kind of looking at Stake, and I mentioned this to Francesca as well. I was like, when you was drawing this, it kind of looks a bit like Francesca. Angel looks kind of, there's similarities there, like the same hairstyle and everything like that. And I mentioned that to her, and she said, quite a few people have said that to me. Have you noticed that, or is that just something that the readers and people are noticing, or did you notice that before?
No, I do find that interesting, and especially since she didn't design Angel.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know her when I gave the description to the original artist. So it just kind of happens that they do have similar, definitely a similar style too, except that I know Francesca likes to have different colored hair, but Angel hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
I like to think Francesca's probably a little bit politer as well. Maybe doesn't mince her word quite as much as Angel.
Well, she's not that great at English yet. Give her some time.
Yeah.
She has put us on a promise saying that when her English does get better, she will join us on the show instead of just in the chat as well. But I mean, overall, Steak has been, we're 2 issues in, and it's kind of the character Angel is really, really building up. I mean, now we've kind of seen her, she's been pulled back into the VBHU and stuff like that, and it's all about this high school kind of dealing with the different feelings towards vampires. We've got the pro vampires, we've got the haters of the vampires and stuff. It's very much to and fro against how it's all going to go. I mean, I'm very much excited to find out how this is all going to come to an end. I mean, do you know how this is in your mind? You kind of know this is how it's going to end, this is where we're going to leave it and stuff, or is it just going to be open to interpretation and you're just going to keep this going for as long as you can?
No, I know where it's going to end. So, and I'm not really going to spoil it because I am,
of course,
I'm dropping little seeds here and there. That if you're paying close enough attention, by the time you get to issue 24, 25, whatever it takes to actually get there, you'll if you think back, you'll kind of scrunch your nose and say, wait a second, that was actually pointed out already. So there are things that they're not that obvious, but once they're revealed, they are obvious.
No, that's I like to read a comic that you kind of get involved with, and it's kind of like, and again, it does touch on like the something is killing the children, like woman is at the forefront, she's the main character and stuff, very driving this. Was there ever a point when you was creating this that you thought it would have been a male character?
Initially, yeah, that was my thought, and then about maybe a week into, because the way I work is a little different. I don't actually write my ideas down until they won't leave me alone. So initially,
it's a bit like these two.
Yep, basically. So I was thinking, I'm just the story is gestating in my head. I'm like, why wouldn't someone name a bounty hunter Steak? And I Googled it. There, it wasn't out there. Nobody had used that. And being a male, my default character always just goes to me. So it's like I always put myself in the role first, and then when I start to think about it more, I'm like, no, we don't need another guy doing stuff. I think it should be a female character. And then it just it grew from there, and eventually I got to the point where, okay, I'm going to sit down and start writing things out, and then I'm going to start looking for an artist. And then after I learned what I was doing through my series, The Couch, I decided that Steak was going to be my next series, and I just kind of went full in. I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Let's just go for it. So
I was looking at your variant covers for The Couch. How have you not been sued by Disney?
That was a MegaCon exclusive, and it was parody.
I like it.
And there are very few copies of those in the world.
Well, I mean, obviously, you're a writer, you're the co-publisher of Scout as well. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of kind of juggling both of them? Because obviously with Scout, you kind of, I guess you have a more one-to-one basis with the artists and writers. I guess it's more intimate. Do you find yourself swaying towards one thing more than you do another, or are you not able to write as much as you want because you're doing the co-publishing and stuff like that?
It's definitely the personal projects are what take the back seat because of the deadlines involved with publishing. So I've got a routine now basically for what needs to get out for Scout, but it's time consuming. So if I find myself with only so much energy to do something in a day, it's going to be the things where I have to hit deadlines where other people rely on me, not where I'm doing it for myself. And, I know we all experience that because I talk to other people who are creators and doing the job of putting out comics, and it's always the same answer. It's our personal things that take the back seat. So right now, my main job with Stake is to stay ahead of Francesca. So as long as she has something to work on, then we're all good.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say, I mean, with obviously you say like the personal aspects taking the back seat, do you find yourself having a down period where you're actually reading the comics? Have you even, obviously I know that you wrote Stake, but have you read it since it's gone to publication?
I don't know. Did I read it? Being the publisher, I have to go back and proof it again.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's basically it, but I'm looking at it with a different,
of course,
a different set of eyes. But that's pretty much it. I mean, if you ask me specifically what happened on any page of any issue of mine, I probably couldn't tell you. It's like I've had people ask me about certain things in the novel I wrote 4 years ago. And I'm like, I don't remember. I'd have to go back and read it myself because I have so many ideas and so much stuff going on. It's like, you get an info dump every once in a while where you even forget the things that you've done yourself.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can totally understand that. But is there any comics that you are reading other than, do you get a time to just sit down and you think, right, I'm just going to chill out. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit down and read a comic. Is there anything out there at the moment that's kind of taken your fancy?
I try to, there was all that hype around Something's Killing the Children, so I did end up reading that. I just got Count from Humanoids, which is it's like a futuristic version of the Count of Monte Cristo. I thought that was pretty interesting. I still have a pull, but if I showed you a picture of my office, my desk is, I'm not exaggerating, it's like 8 rows of almost 2 foot tall stacks of comics that I haven't even put in long boxes or anything.
That sounds like my weekly pull list.
We're going to see you on one of those hoarded programs, aren't we?
Right now it's possible. I have we maintain an office where I do some of my day job work out of, but I've got 30,000 comics over there. And then I've got 2 rooms at my house. One's my office that is full of comics and sports cards, and then the other is all the collectibles and stuff where you can barely open the door right now because I keep buying stuff, but I don't actually take it out of the boxes. I just shove it in the room.
Sounds like heaven.
Oh yeah, it would be like if I had time to just I'd be surprising myself with the things I had. Like, sometimes I haven't looked at stuff for 6 months, and I pulled out that Strange Academy Peach cover that I ordered on a whim back before it came out, and I'm like, oh, this is a $100 comic that I didn't even realize I had.
Jesus. I'd love to be going through just some of my comments thinking, oh yeah, I haven't read that. I'm going to send that off to CGC and whatever and see if it comes back. But I mean, what would you say has been like your highlight of your career so far, whether it be writing or publishing for Scout Comics? Is there something that you can kind of touch on and think that's been a pretty sweet moment so far?
And not tonight, speaking to us. Not.
Yeah. You can't say tonight, David. I'm sorry, mate. You can't.
No, it's in the same vein though. I thought the coolest thing would be getting my book in stores and on shelves. But really, it's when someone reaches out to you out of the blue and tells you that they like what you're doing and to keep it up. I mean, that's the coolest thing. Or I haven't really got to have it happen with Stake because of the pandemic, but even with the couch a couple of years ago, someone came back and said, I bought #1 the last time I saw you. Do you have #2 now? I loved it. It's like, okay, that's great. When someone comes out seeking you to get something that you created, that's the feeling,
No, I guess it must. I'm just trying to think of because obviously there's so many different comic publishers out there and stuff. Is it kind of with Scout and the rest of the indie? Is there kind of, without even trying to, there's kind of a competition? You're like, yeah, we're doing this, we're killing this at the moment, we're kind of ahead of the game, or is it a kind of a mentality that publishers and companies like that don't tend to have or let it be known?
We kind of look at it as a rising tide, raises all ships. Like, it's good for us if people are buying comics in general. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't go and say, oh, that's an X publishing company, I'm not buying that book. I look at it and I say, oh, this looks interesting, I'm going to check it out, kind of regardless of what company it is. So I think the more quality books that all of us as publishers are putting out there, the better it is for everyone. So, and that's the biggest thing that has stopped a lot of people from getting into indie comics is they bought something one time, they spent their hard-earned money on it, and it wasn't any good. You know, not necessarily the story may have been great, but they picked it up. The paper quality wasn't good. The production value, they equate indie comics with lower quality, when really all it is we're just not as big as the big guys, because there's no excuse anymore. Everybody has access to all of the design elements you could possibly need, the software. Printers are accessible now. It's not unreasonable to be able to print comic books at a price where you can actually still not lose money on every product you make. So I think, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I see it as we're all in it together, personally.
I can't imagine the marketing budget is huge for Scout Comics or any other sort of indie publisher. So do you guys keep an eye out for like the UK comic community YouTube channels and the US YouTube channels to see what they're talking about? And do you enjoy taking the opportunity to jump on shows and having chats with the community?
I love coming on and talking with everybody. I try to keep an eye out to see if people are, if they're talking about us or not. But unless we're tagged or someone, points it out to us, we don't have the bandwidth to be looking at all of them. It's hard. And, the marketing budget, like you said, that's one of the lowest things, unfortunately, on our capability right now. But we're working on it. We're growing, and that's one of the next roles that I'm hoping we can get as a marketing person, just a dedicated person. But all those things they'll come in time as we get bigger.
Killer Comics will spread the good word of
100%. And I mean, I think I've got to be Sif Lordley from Spinetics over in the US. I've just received my Stake 1 Chew variant about 15 minutes ago. So, do you know what I mean? Stake is out there. People are enjoying it. I think it's a great comic, and the fact that you've just said that there's going to be so much more coming, it's just going to be so enjoyable to read. I mean, I think it's great, and I really, really do love it. And the variant covers you've got coming out, the fantastic art from Francesca as well. You guys, the story works really well with her art, vice versa and stuff. But I mean, honestly, it's fantastic. Like the pops of color we've spoke about, it really, really does come to life. And it really, really, if this you could see this on like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, because I think Buffy was so many years ago, and this is more relevant. This would be, I think, this would be
somebody
amazing.
mentioned that they would like to see it in kind of like that anime Netflix style that they've been doing lately, and I actually wouldn't be opposed to that. They did it with Invincible; it's working very well. It doesn't necessarily have to be live action anymore. People are way more open to mainstream animated shows than they were maybe 15, 20 years ago. It's not just kids shows.
I will put myself forward to voice Jessamy.
Perfect.
I think with you touched on Invincible, like that is when I first see that first episode, I was like, I wasn't expecting it until we got to the end of it. Something like that would definitely work with Stake. I think it would like altruistic kind of thing. You kind of see one thing and all of a sudden something comes out of nowhere and you hit with like a massive ending and whatever thing. I definitely think this is because you've done that in issue 1, it was kind of like that. In issue 2, we're kind of getting there. If you like it would definitely transcend over to a TV series. I think that'd be great. I'm going for it. Let's get the Kickstarter out there.
I do kind of think episodically as well. So the issues do kind of end at how you would feel like a TV show would end, and that's just because of the way I see storytelling. I know everybody has it different ways, and you take advantage of a medium. I know some art or writers don't do it, but like I try to catch you with the page turn. Some are like, no, I don't care what action falls on what page, but you can do a lot by having your right page be one thing that leads to you're thinking something's going to happen, and you turn the page and it's something completely different or something shocking. I mean, I did it with the first issue. You could see you open the cover, and the first image you see is someone getting their heart ripped out. I wanted the series to start and say, this is going to be the tone going forward. So,
and can you give our viewers any tidbits, any kind of inclination where the story might be going? I know we've you've been chatting with the show, and there's a character coming up in the third issue that I'm particularly fond of. Can I say? I won't give anything away, but can you kind of tell our audience, get a bit of a teaser, maybe a little one?
Would you say he's fabulous?
Oh, yes.
Very much
fabulous.
Very much so. Very much so.
The only thing I'll say about that is it's interesting, and people might not even make the connection because his name isn't really thrown about that much. Mm-hmm. In the Kickstarter issue that we had for Stake Presents Jessamy, that character is prominently featured in that issue already.
Oh man, I need to get back on that then. Okay, right, that's cool.
So that's kind of what I'm going to be trying to do with the spin-offs. They're all going to be historical, and you'll see characters that are in the main Stake series, but you'll see them. It could be decades, centuries, 1,000 years before. So
that character is top of my list for spin-offs right now.
I would like to. The key would be figuring out how he got from where he was in the spin-off to where he is now.
Love it.
And where
I
can
know
I buy?
Francesca really enjoys drawing him.
I can imagine. So I can imagine.
He's
So.
superb. David, where can I buy a Vampire Bounty Hunter Union T-shirt? Are those been made? Is there any plans to make those? Because I think we could start a bit of a movement, or that could be a spin-off, a little bit like Strange Academy. You've got your Bounty Hunter Union.
I hadn't even thought of it, but you know what? There should be some, shouldn't there? I'll have to get on. Get my logo guy on designing a nice logo.
Absolutely. I was going to say, speaking of logos, it wasn't until the second issue that I appreciated how fantastic the Stake logo is, where it's actually the stake that's gone through that makes up the A and the E. Mm-hmm. I just think that's fantastic. It's the small things, I think, that make it.
That was my good friend and letterer, Joel Rodriguez, who's also head of design at Scout. So it's I don't want to say incestuous, but it's kind of incestuous over there. I brought him along, and he letters my books. He does a lot of my design work. He helped with the Kickstarter campaign. So between him and Francesca, I mean, Stake is a very small team, but everyone is very important. Mm-hmm. All that lettering, and Joel does. I think he does a fantastic job on the lettering, and that riot scene with all of those signs. He did each one of those. By hand. He did make me go back because apparently Francesca drew a lot more signs than what I had put in the script. So we had to go back after the fact and come up with more slogans to put on them, which was kind of hard because how clever can you get with vampire signs after you've done 7 or 8 of them?
Yeah. I really enjoyed that, where she kind of tries to water it down to give her say so, like, your name's shit, this is what we're talking about, and it kind of all backfires. And then obviously the knight in shining armor is Jessamy that comes in, and it's just, even then she's still falling back, like flipping the bird as she's falling back and stuff. She's such a relatable character, like a teenage, doesn't give a hell.
Well, she is for you, maybe, Charlie. You gobshite.
How dare you? But I think she's a relatable character. Like we've kind of, I'd be the same as her if I was. I'd be.
I love the friendship as well. It's such a great, and it almost feels like it's turning into like a buddy cop thing as well, which is like I'm all for. I think that's really one of the standout elements to the story as well. It's just that friendship, really, almost like a reluctant kind of connection at times. Yeah, great.
I think the thing that I like to try to get across is because of when the initial event happened to Angel. It was three years ago in the book. She was like a sophomore in high school, and that changed her whole life. And she kind of missed that part of finishing high school and all that stuff, because she was involved with this family that's right in the middle of it all. And, you know, she meets Jessamy. She becomes part of the Vampire Bounty Hunting Union because that's what she wants to do with her life now. So she never really got the rest of the teenage experience. So she's also still somewhat immature in that sense that, you know, she didn't finish seasoning. So she's still a little raw out there.
And with Ashwin, is it Ashwin or is it Arshwin?
It's Ashvin.
Ashvin. Okay, right. I was wrong on all accounts. Why not?
Yeah, it kind of makes fun of him.
You still get your teeth in?
When we talk about it, it's just easier to say Ashwin because that's, you know, that's what it looks like.
I mean, he seems to be, I don't know if I love to hate him or I actually just can't stand him, but I quite like him as a character because you don't see too much of him. You know he's there. You know that they're kind of, this whole thing going on is about what he started, and he's very much a prominent member of the Vampires Union and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, are we going to get to see a lot more of him as it progresses, or is he still going to be like, excuse the pun, being a vampire and lurking in the shadows?
Well, basically he did what he did and then he disappeared. And that's why she's having such a hard time tracking all of them down. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's not really a spoiler. In issue 4, she's talking about how these are the 4 people who did what they did. And I still don't have any newer photos than this video they posted 3 years ago. So they're always there. He's this presence in her life, but what you're seeing, you know, in like the 1-page little snippets of him is actually their flashbacks to what was leading up to what he did. We don't know what he's doing right now. Yeah. Where is he? I don't know. He's out there somewhere. That's the whole point of the series, is her tracking him down. I've kind of set it up with the plan is 4 arcs. There's 4 of those vampires from the first issue, and to kind of keep with the current, you know, we've got the social media aspect and, you know, teenagers like video games. It's almost like she's leveling up each arc as the first one will, and the first arc, this is a little spoiler, but not too big of a spoiler. She will confront one of them, one of the 4 in the first arc. And then hopefully each arc she will try to get another one, but obviously things won't go that easily. Yeah.
I mean, have you got a favorite issue so far? I mean, you shared with me an issue, a screenshot from issue 4, and I was kind of just, this is insane. This is going to be awesome. Like, if this is the way that it's going, it's going to look wicked. Is there kind of a favorite issue that you and Francesca have worked on so far, and you thought, yeah, this is pretty sensational?
I really liked number 3, but I like all of them because they just they continue to tell the same story, and I don't think that they're not the same. It's not like there's a little bit that's repetitive just because of the nature of how we communicate and things like that. And I've noticed that, you know, at the end of, if you catch somebody doing something, they're going to get hauled off. So it just happens to be, you know, there's a couple of scenes at different times where there's a cleanup crew. But yeah, that's what happens. And I guess if you think about it, if you watch TV cop procedurals, at the end of the day, there's always a crew there cleaning up the mess that they solved. So, but I know you asked what my favorite issue was, and then I just started rambling.
That's fine. Let's go for it. It's interesting. That's what it's here for.
No, I think right now, just because of what we were able to do in the action sequence in number 3. Yeah. And the character that you guys liked that was in issue 3, I loved the fact that we got to introduce him, because there's a big thing with him in issue 4, so he'll be back in issue 4.
Yeah, I think we was like given the opportunity to read number 3, and I've got to say, you touched on an action scene that was probably. Number 3 was amazing, and it really was. It kind of like, because you kind of had that action scene in issue 2 with like the schools fighting and her getting caught up, and then where we go to is and the way that it starts is a direct follow on from number 2 and what's happened and stuff. But I mean, it's great. I mean, is this kind of like one thing? This is obviously your idea. Now you've got to be pretty messed up to think of these ideas and stuff. Is this kind of?
Tell me.
Is there some belief in vampires and stuff in the occult, or is it something that you kind of just think it's pure fantasy? Let's just get it out in comic book form and get like the people out there to read it.
I'm pretty pragmatic and realistic in real life, but the supernatural and things like that, they just fascinate me because it would be nice if these things did exist, because it would make our world a lot more interesting. I haven't seen anything to give me evidence that any of this kind of stuff is out there, and that's why I like
talking about.
I'm convinced. No, but that's why I wanted to do them as a more of a biological, not supernatural vampire. So they're just kind of an evolutionary step, as opposed to demons and things like that. That's another big difference between what we've got going on and a lot of the other vampire stories. And I mean, you'll see it. I sprinkle in things that are vampire lore and dispel them in our universe. It's in issue 3. I'm not going to.
Yeah, that was one of what I was going to say about that moment. I love like when people kind of twist mythology and just make it something completely different and original. And that moment in the 3rd issue, that tickled me.
Well, there's actually a little science behind that too. In that description, what's in there is factual.
All right. Okay. Well, have a look in the fridge after this.
Well, you are a vampire, right? So
yeah. So
it'll work on you.
But when you was kind of working on this, did you have like any? I guess from your start of it, did you is there any people that you've kind of looked up to, and you're kind of that have always been part of what you've done? You've kind of looked up to and thought, I'm going to aspire to be like that, get to where you've been and stuff.
No, not as much. I'm more of a osmosis. I get things through osmosis. It feels like I just observe everything. I read a lot. I watch a lot of TV and movies. I mean, it's going to sound strange for the style of what steak is, but maybe you see it in the humor. The things that I think were the most influential in my life is growing up with The Simpsons and South Park, Family Guy. I've always watched drama, action, sci-fi, and things like that. But honestly, my writing, I think those are the things that influence me more than anything else. And if you look closely in a lot of my stuff, there will randomly be like street signs will reference like Evergreen Terrace and things like that, places where the Simpsons live. So I do kind of put them there. But honestly, that's, believe it or not, those are my biggest influences and the things I've always been like, well, if I had a 30-year series, I would want it to be like The Simpsons.
Awesome.
I could see that. That would be great. I mean, is there any with Scout? Is there any writers or artists that you would like to kind of do stuff within Scout Comics that you haven't had the opportunity to work with yet?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, the easy one is my co-publisher, Charlie. Charlie Stickney, who we've become pretty good friends over the last 7 months, and we have White Ash and Steak. He's got a character named Glarian, who is not all that different from Jessamy, and even at some point somebody even said, I'd love to see a Jessamy Glarian crossover, and neither one of us were like, no, that's a terrible idea. It was more of a how would we make that work? It's more one of those more of a no, that's not a stupid idea, that's a what would that look like idea.
That'd be great, just to I guess that's how where you're such a intimate business. I guess ideas are floating around all the time, so you can kind of just hear something on a whim, and then before you know it, you're kind of going with it. You're picking up the page. You've got the storyboards done. You've got the artist in line. Is it an exciting environment to work in?
Well, since we're all pretty much remote, and we're all really spread out. The Zooms can be fun. We don't really have much in the way of like creative breakdown meetings like that. It's more of a, what do we have coming up? What kind of ideas does anybody have about what we can do to shake things up in the comic industry? And, or if somebody has an idea, we'll all get together and, on a Zoom or a phone call and kind of brainstorm and chat about how we can make it a reality. Or, if you want to tell me that I had a really stupid idea, which, that happens fairly frequently, but so yeah, it's, cause Charlie's in California, James is 4.5 hours from me. Some of the other partners are in New York. Another one's in LA. So we're not really, we don't get in a room and get to do that. If you watch the videos for Scout though, HQ looks like they're having a lot of fun. There's now a Girls of Scout HQ YouTube page, I believe, and they show off what we've got at HQ, including last week they built a fort out of sub boxes and they were playing in it.
Wow.
I'm getting on that right now.
I mean, just because obviously you're busy and stuff. I mean, is there anything that you would give advice to, like, because I mean, I think with lockdown, society's changed. We're kind of doing this a lot more. I mean, we've spoken about if we wasn't doing this and we live closer together, we'd be in a pub having a drink talking about comics. This is kind of just our get out. Is there anything that you would kind of just say to people thinking about getting into writing, getting into the art and stuff? Where would you kind of say make the start?
The biggest thing is to do it. I mean, that's my biggest advice. But if you are going to write comics, you need to understand the medium, because it's not like writing for prose. It may seem like the scripts are like screenplays, but it's not the same thing. There's Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. If you're going to write comics and you haven't read that, you should start there. And then don't jump in. I know everybody says it's rather cliched, but it's true. Don't jump in and think the first thing you're going to write is going to be your 100 episode or 100 issue, series that's going to sell 100,000 copies of every book. Write a 1-pager, a 3-pager, a 4-pager. Hook up with an artist so you can learn from each other. I mean, it sounds trite, but start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Don't think you can cut corners and just be the next Donnie Cates or whoever you want to be.
And if someone wants to pitch a comic and an idea to Scout Comics, what's the proper process to go through to make that happen?
We actually have a page that describes what to do on our website. So if you go there on the left-hand side, there's a tab for submissions. And please, anyone who's listening who wants to submit to us, do not send your pages in a zip file. Because I don't want to have to download it and unzip it. If you send it as a PDF, I can actually look at it right in my browser. And I will tell you, it may take me a lot longer to review a submission if it comes in a zip file. And I may even wait for the others to chime in before I decide if I'm going to even review it. So, but yeah, there's pretty explicit instructions. So that my biggest advice would be to go to the webpage and view the instructions and actually follow them when you submit. That's
easy as
that's another thing. We'd like to know that people we're working with can actually, follow instructions.
Follow instructions.
And David, I've got
they're not idiots.
I've got a question from the third member of the Killer Comic Show. He's actually working, but he's just dropped in to say hi. So massive shout out to Tom. It is, if David was to write himself into a book, what would the character be like?
So I mentioned my novel before. Shady Place is a novel about a retired cop from up north who moves to a 55 and up community in Florida. And he finds out his neighbor is the retired mob boss, or the mob boss he chased his whole career. So it's kind of a buddy, I hate you buddy comedy where they end up solving some murders in the neighborhood. But the main character is Jim Phillips. He is cranky. he's the you kids get off my lawn guy. So I have basically already written myself into one of my works, and it's me just in 25 years or so.
That's
awesome.
Who would you get to do the art for that, David? If you was to do it?
That one, I don't think I would turn that into a comic. I think I would just leave that one as a novel. I think that one would actually make a really good TV show as well, because the neighborhood itself is even a character. Because I don't know if you've heard the stories, but crazy things happen in 55 and up communities in Florida, like STDs run rampant and things like that.
Just sounds like my university. Who would you cast as yourself then? In that case, David.
You know, in that, I even gave him a copy of the book. I always pictured Corbin Burnson.
That's I'm going to need to Google that.
Did you ever see the TV show Psych?
Oh, I need to Google that.
Did you see the movie Major League?
No, I'll Google that. I'll get to Major League Corbin. Right, okay.
Have you ever seen anything?
Dracula.
No, he is. But I mean, David, honestly, thank you for doing the interview with us today. Apologies for messing up the time, even though I'm still saying that Google was wrong. It wasn't me, it was Google. But then I'm outranked because you said I was wrong, Andy said I was wrong, so yeah, I'm wrong. But no, honestly, thank you so much, mate, for taking the time to do the interview.
Absolutely.
You are definitely onto a winner with Stake. I've got to say, it's a really enjoyable read. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to read issue number 3 as well. So there was a funny story about that. We was talking about it today in our chat, and Andy was like, "Yeah, I didn't really get what the ending was about. Like, what so and so." And we was like, "Mate, have you read the right?" He was like, "No, I would have read that was issue number 3." So.
I read issue number 3 before I read issue number 2, so it was
an
interesting.
Understand.
So you probably looked up and said, "How did we get here?"
Yes, exactly.
But thank you so much. Like, it's great what you guys are doing at Scout Comics. You're definitely putting the stuff out at the moment. Like, I'm really looking forward to reading the likes of Snatched. We've got the Shit Show, which this could have been tonight if you didn't jump on an hour earlier. So thank you so much for that. We're going to kind of go into the review part of the show. So you're more than welcome to stay around. We've got like 3 comics we're going to review. I think we've got Ben's choice of Nuclear Family number 3. We've got Andy's choice of 2 Moons issue 3. We did have mine of Snatched issue 1 from Scout Comics. I wasn't able to pick that up, so I decided to read Shadecraft number 2. But you're more than welcome to stay around if you feel like it, mate. It's totally up to you.
I did read them, but I do need to run now because of work stuff. As you can see, I'm in an office building, and I did carve out some time for you, but I didn't know we were going to go an hour and 20. So I am going to have to bag out, but this was great. Thank you guys.
But honestly, it was so enjoyable. So thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time as well. And I'm sure we'll be continuing the chat when I speak to you over on Instagram. But thank you so much, David. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. There we go, guys. That was...
Right, now he's gone.
You can take that off now, Ben. You can take that off. That was great. Like, it's always great to have a writer on or a co-publisher and stuff like that. So thanks to everyone in the chat that asked questions. And yes, you are the 4th member, Tom. I did get that right. The 4th member of the Killer Comic Show is me, Andy, Ben, and Tom.
I just realised now I've taken my wig off. I just look like Nosferatu.
Yeah, you do.
You actually look a little bit like that character that's in the 3rd issue.
I'll take
But
all day long.
I mean, Ben, shall we go over to your pick of the week? Your read of the week, which was Nuclear
Family, issue 3. So, story by Stephanie Phillips and art by Tony Shastine again. I've got to speak seriously now with this bloody makeup on. I didn't love this, you know. I think I loved the 1st and 2nd issue, and I don't think I loved this book. As Andy would say, #filler. I think it didn't necessarily, it kind of, if anything, it introduced more questions than answering any. So I don't think we actually got more information about the mystery. If anything, it's just added some more mystery with some additional characters and stuff. I loved it opens with like a propaganda cartoon, and I think that played out beautifully, and I could almost hear the the old style BBC news reporter voice over the top of it and stuff. So I love that. It's good to get to know those McLean kids as well a little bit more, because I think I complained last time that I don't think they had any character. That being said, I think their mum is still bland and still really two-dimensional. Like, I think she's one of the only characters that still needs to be fleshed out. I don't know about you guys, but did it feel like a big jump, him getting kind of interrogated in this issue? Because the second issue, he's like having a guided tour, and then like all of a sudden, this basically opens with kind of interrogation. It just felt like a big jump for me.
That's kind of where I got a bit annoyed with it, to be fair, because issue 1 was kind of sets the story as all first issues do, and you kind of understand like his background and where he's come from and where he's working now. Then issue 2 happens, and you're literally thrown into it, and he's being like he's with his friend, or he thinks he's his friend, and then we just literally, it's like we've missed something, and all of a sudden it's kind of like we've missed an episode, and we're like here, and we're like, well, how the hell did we get here? I totally am with you. His wife just doesn't fit the bill for me. She really just doesn't fit the whole
What's
thing.
What's the word, guys? Beige.
Yeah, she's beige. Very beige. But yeah, like you've got things that are going on, and obviously it's all centered around. I'm trying to not give a spoiler as well. It's all centered around the main character and stuff, but she's just not even. Doesn't even seem like she's relevant. If she wasn't there and it was just him and his 2 kids, you can kind of understand that. But the fact that she it's like a moo point for me. She's not relevant. She doesn't even need to be there.
I think she may surprise us at some point. I'm hoping that she surprises us. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Ben. Is that this comic in the first issue kind of blew us all away. Second issue the first issue left us with lots of questions. So we're like, okay, we'll give the second issue a go. Second issue continued to give us more questions. And then we went into the third, and I left it with more questions, and at some point it's going to have to give us a little bit of answers to grab onto and give us a bit of context as to what is actually happening in the story.
Because we haven't really got to know the leads yet, and already we've been introduced to a new lead character, this young guy who's there to sort of help the kids and things. It's got to be said though, these covers are stunning. I love the provocative kind of cover for this, and I love that it kind of still feels like, I've said it before, the propaganda style, like posters and stuff, and the issue 4 cover, which we see at the end of this book, with basically kind of radiation like zombies. That looks really cool. So I think I will pick up the next issue, but I need a layer of this banana peeled back. If it's not peeled in the next issue, that banana is going in the bin.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think I agree with both of you. Like there's so much being put out that we don't even know the answers to, and I think if it doesn't happen in the next issue, I'm just going to kind of shelve it. Excuse the pun.
I think I'll stick with it. I think it's one of those ones I'll stick with it. It's intrigued me enough and done enough in the first sort of 2 or 3 issues to keep me going. That new character that was introduced in issue 3 came so out of left field that it was kind of annoying, because before somebody else is introduced, I wanted to understand some of the context around what's been happening over the last 2.5 issues. So that was hard to deal with, but I think I'm going to stick in and see where it goes, because I do enjoy the art. I enjoy the art style, and I think there's a story there. I just don't think it's found itself yet. It's a very slow burner compared to some of the other comics that I've read.
Do you think though they brought that new character in that we see so quickly just to keep things moving, just to keep your mind like ticking over, thinking, right, there's something going on in the background, this is what we're going to keep doing and stuff? Because it was interesting, it was very like
I think he'll be part of the. He'll be a plot device. I don't think he's in there for no reason. It's just frustrating because I kind of want some reasons now. But I'm like your typical 2021 even knobhead who just wants ratification.
Have you went back in time as well?
Straight away. I don't know where I am tonight. I think this face paint's gone into my bloodstream.
Let's go back in the coffin. But it was, I think overall, it was a good read. I did kind of get a bit like, I just want answers to these questions now. But then on the flip side of that, I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to have to pick up issue 3. I'm going to have to read issue 4, because I want to find out what's happening. So
it's done its job then. It's done its job.
They've got me by the short and curlies there, haven't they? But they have. But yeah, on that, I'll definitely like. I'm going to read it because we need something to talk about. And issue 1, issue 2, and even issue 3 was enjoyable. And it was set in, what was it, 1975.
And that issue 3 is actually a homage to a Superman, a Wonder Woman and Batman cover, which I thought was class.
It was good. But then your 2 comments, I've got, it's ironic, 2 moons, 2 covers.
Nice.
Cover A by Valerio Giordano and cover B by Latina and Bianconi. I've got to say, it was because I read them out on Monday. That's why. And I'll tell you what, I had to literally keep going up. I was like, Latina and Bianconi. And I was like, I've got to do this. Bianconi, right? Andy, this has been my favourite issue so far.
Boom. Yes, I agree. I absolutely love this comic. I know that Sith, who's in the chat, really enjoys it as well. So John Arcudi, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly as well, is the writer for 2 Moons. And from the very beginning, this has sort of caught my imagination just because where it's set. I think the covers have been fantastic in this, and Dave Stewart does the colours for this as well. So this particular issue, without getting into spoilers, sort of finds Virgil post escaping from a particular situation, and it kind of becomes apparent that the evils of war are represented through these monsters that he's coming into contact with, and those monsters are feeding off the despair and the anger and the bloodshed of war. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic. It's the cover, specifically the cover A for this, is straight out of sort of Walking Dead-esque.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Comics. So that's intriguing as well. I think that'll get people to pick it up. But I would say this is probably a difficult book to pick up from maybe issue 3 if you haven't read the first 2 issues. So it's maybe one that you maybe either want to go back and pick up the first 2 issues and dive into it, or maybe just wait till the trade is out. But I would highly recommend it. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Ben, what did you think?
It ain't for me. I
surprise.
It just ain't for me, mate.
Beta Ray Bill isn't in it. It's not for me. I like other types of horses on covers.
Beta Ray Bill, the issue that came out this week was chef's kiss. I'm telling you, shut your face. No, I you know what? I think it's mainly on me because I do struggle with period pieces, whether that be comic books, TV series, films. I struggle with period stuff. So that kind of disjointed language. And the one thing about this book is I think it's actually really true to that time period in the way that it's written. But because of that, dumbasses like me struggle to kind of follow it and it becomes disjointed. The one thing I will say, though, this has the most gorgeous horror imagery that I've seen in comics for a while. And the monsters that Andy kind of spoke about there are so kind of original. It's hard to come up with like an original monster these days, isn't it? Like most stuff has been done. But this book has come up with like, imagery that I couldn't imagine, and I'm sick in the head. So I think I would, we always talk about things getting converted into films and stuff. I would just love to see this live, just to see the beasts, on screen and stuff. But yeah, I think it's quite wordy, and I struggle with that. And the time period doesn't really interest me, and I've just found it hard to follow, to be quite honest. But that's on me, I think.
No, but I mean, I've got to kind of agree with you, because I kind of, like, when issue 1 came out, I know it was a big thing. I had to read it 2 or 3 times, because I was like, I can't get my Cockney thought process through this broken language. Like, I got this little small brain, I couldn't get my head through it, and I was like, right, I'm going to give it another read. I found this tiny little beanhead, and I tried to get through it, and I was like, do you know what, I can't. But this, for the same, I just really enjoyed this. The cover A drew me in, because I'm a massive Walking Dead fan. I loved it, and I found it easier to read this time around. Like, there is a part in it where he brings all the horses back, and I'm like, oh, you need to just speak properly. Like, I'm losing interest here. You speak properly, but it is an enjoyable comic, and it is my favourite issue so far. And I was surprised with that, because I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did.
I don't think it's a comic that you can pick up and just whiz through, read it really quickly. You have to take your time with it, and I think part of that is on purpose, because the more that you take your time to read through it, the more you're actually taking in some of the imagery that is there, because there's small details within each of the pages that you might not appreciate. And as Ben has alluded to there, like, the monster creation in this is kind of what you would imagine a monster of war to look like. And as I said before, the colour work, I can't imagine any other person doing the colours on this. I think it completely complements it.
Yeah, look,
you almost want to read it like in like a den with candles, and like by yourself, and it's dark, and like I can see what you mean. It's definitely not a skimmer.
No, absolutely. Not at all. But it's definitely an intriguing read. It's a decent read. Like, after issue 1, I thought, if it weren't for you, Andy, saying read it again, I don't think I would have continued to read it. I would have been like, one done.
No, I remember that conversation, because I did say to you guys to stick in, give it another go, even give it a reread as well. Because what I actually done with this one was I went back and read issue 1 and 2 again. And I actually found that helped a lot, because it gave this issue a lot more context. But I think this issue does a lot. Issue 2 and issue 3 does a lot to sort of build up the characters and get a better understanding of who Virgil Morris is, aka Two Moons. So yeah, I've got a bit of an affinity for Virgil Morris, so that's what's kept me intrigued to see what happens to him.
Because it was this comic, issue 1, that came out at the same time as Stray Dogs, and I remember you lot were like, "Oh, you're a dick. What you're reading a comic about dogs for?" But did you read issue number 4, didn't you?
Yeah.
See, that was like, I told you to stick with that.
Issue 3.
Issue 3. Yeah, I told you to stick with that. You told me to stick with this. This is how team works.
I guess that's the beauty of Killer Comics, isn't it? Because we're all picking different comics that are out with our comfort zone. I know Ben is introducing me to a lot of characters and a lot of comics that I wouldn't necessarily go and read, but and I probably still won't. But
no, I mean, better Ray Bill, man. Like, better Ray Bill. I'm going to read number 2, because I'm kind of secretly hoping that it's going to be better.
So good.
You said that about issue 1.
No,
I'm going to. I actually read issue 2, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
Right, okay. So. I'll read that tonight. I will
Praise
read that
the
Lord. So I think it's a 2. How ironic is that? There's 3 of us. We're on issue 2. There's 2 moons saying yes, and then there's 1 full moon at the bottom saying So,
and then we've got Peach of the Week to look forward to, and that's another moon.
It's like,
you just call me a full moon. Why do I?
I'm just trying to think of that Jaffa Cake over half moon, full moon, totally eclipse, but it wouldn't work. So, but I think, we'll go to, what have we got next? We have got Shadecraft issue number 2. Now, this was my pick. This was my pick of the week, and I've got to say, we've got cover A by Lee Garbett, and then we've got cover B by Tula Lotay. It is. Go on, Andy.
You should have committed.
It's Miss Lotay to Miss you, Lotay. Charles.
Miss Lotay. Okay. But this, like, honest, this went under the radar for me. Like, issue 1 went under the radar, And then all of a sudden it was like, I think with the Jock cover was going for less money than cover A, which I found quite surprising. I was like, well, this is Jock. Everyone knows Jock.
Because cover A is so beautiful, and again for this one, I think the cover A is actually.
And you know what? I was
cover.
lucky. I went to a place in space 2 weeks ago and managed. I couldn't find cover A anywhere. It was a Jock cover or nothing, and even the Jock cover I think it like shot up to like $7.95, and I was like, well, I'm not really going to pay that. And I went to a place in space. They had one left on the shelf, and I managed to pick up cover A for $3.95, so I was happy with that.
But then you realised that you'd picked up 3 copies the previous week.
But that's just me. I enjoy collecting comics, whether they're duplicates, triplets, or quadruplets. Who cares? But I really enjoy this comic. I kind of like picking up a comic that hits the emotions, and this one has done it for me with how number 1 ended to how number 2 is progressing to how it ended. I mean, it's great. We're continuing the story of Zadie Chu. Is it Zadie Chu? And obviously what she found out at the end of issue 1 with her brother being the shadow that's kind of protected her from the darkness. But what I liked about this is that we find out that obviously her brother's been in a coma for a year, and we kind of get to find out more about Ryan. It is Ryan, isn't it? Yeah, we get to find out more about Ryan and Zadie's relationship with him. It's just a really, really good read, and the way that it kind of ended was so left field. You kind of didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say this comic is it's one of the comics I look forward to reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's a treat for the eyes and it's a treat for the soul, because issue 1. Did you like that? You like that?
I really like.
Killer Comics is like that as well. It's a treat for the soul. That needs to be on your banner for this.
I'm gonna take this caption off and just a treat for the eyes.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy the artwork, enjoy the colours, and the story is just. It's close to being perfect for 2 issues. It's probably the most perfect 2 issues that I've read in a long, long time.
I mean, like the story by Joe Henderson for me is like the way that Sean's just touched on it as well. Like the brother sister rivalry kind of playfulness within it. Joe Henderson's done that really well, because he kind of, you would see that because obviously she's struggling with her brother being in a coma for a year, so she's obviously distanced herself from her parents, where the mum's so focused on getting him better and thinking there's light at the end of the tunnel, and she's obviously dealing with her own trauma, going through it on her own, not being able to turn to anyone. So the fact that now she can turn to him but she can't tell anyone about it, it's kind of like that secret brother. It's quite secret, that sibling stuff that you wouldn't tell your parents about anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, don't tell mum and dad, because how would she even go about telling her mum and dad this? Because they're not.
Yeah, I DDT'd my little sister once and broke one of my great auntie's antiques, and we didn't tell her. I think this is absolutely, Andy, I think you put it better than anything. It's near perfect. It kind of, Charlie's talking about the emotional gravitas of the story and stuff, and I think on paper that kind of reads as quite a dark, book, but it's actually a hell of a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of in the second issue especially, there's goofy parts, there's parts that are quite kind of goofy, but it doesn't play out in a kind of like cringy way. Like it plays out so kind of naturally and like and yeah, we obviously won't spoil things, but the twist at the end of this completely kind of sets it on this new road now. So it's boom, that's issue 3 sold, like that. So I think the artwork is just so consistent. As consistent as that writing is as well, and yeah, near perfect.
I just think, like as you both have said, I'm loving the fact that it's expanding the world. It's very mysterious. It's a dramatic comic. I can't wait to see how long do you know how long is this, a 6 issue, or is it like a 5 issue or 12, or because I think this has got like the legs to go on.
I'm not too sure how many issues it is, but no, I definitely think I'd love to see it keep going. It's certainly got the potential in the first 2 issues. It's whether or not the consistency keeps going. But I guess, Joe Henderson and Lee Garbett, the artist, they done Skyward. That was like a 15, 16 issue run, which was, again, near perfect and a kind of a similar-esque storyline. So it's one of those combinations that seem to work. So I can't wait to see what issue 3 has to bring.
Yep. I mean, because the first, I'm kind of like, if I collect cover A, I want to collect all the cover A's. Like, I can't. Sometimes I'll float between cover A and cover B and the variants and stuff. But for me, cover A was the strongest one in issue 1, and also in issue 2, cover A seems to be the strongest one as well. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, the second print for issue 1, which was the sort of Jock and Lee Garbett sort of combo cover.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty stunning. I don't know if you guys have seen the covers for issue 3, 4, and 5, but issue 3 looks phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So,
no, I'm looking.
I just love the shadow thing. Like, that's not easy to get right, for the colorist and the artist and stuff. Like, it's so weird. It's kind of symbiotic, but then it never looks like liquid. It always kind of gives that impression of like smoke or shadow. And that still blowing my mind. And that last panel in this second book, it was just so bold and like really kind of captured the motion of everything. And it's just brilliant. And again, you've got to thank you guys, because this is another indie book that this idiot Marvel and DC fan wouldn't have picked up if it wasn't for this show. So Andy, I'm grateful.
Andy, I'm just looking at cover B. So it's issue number 3, cover B by Chuang, which is amazing. And then you've got cover 4 as well, which these just look insane. Like cover B for issue number 3 looks amazing. But without reading this comic, without looking at it, issue number 2, cover A, kind of gives something away without giving it away, if you know what I mean. So if you haven't read this comic already, this isn't a spoiler. It's kind of, it's testing the water. But what I noticed from this is very similar to Strange Academy issue number 9 cover.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah.
It is very similar.
And it looks quite a lot like the kid with the coat.
Yes.
It looks like that power, like that similar power set.
Yeah. But I mean, we've had 3 successful comics today, which has been great.
One and 2 halves, I think I'd say.
Well, one and 2 halves. I'd say.
So new idea: you can have a killer comic or a binner comic.
Nice, killer or binner.
So starting from next week, we'll have a killer or binner. Yeah, we'll do that. Why not? Nice. Let's go for it. But I think we might as well just get to. There's only one this week, and it is Ben's. So I am just going to get to it. Let me just.
What time is it? What time is it?
It is. It's time for. There we go. Where am I doing it? I can't even. Mate, I'm so lost.
Building up the anticipation.
Okay, let's just.
The state of me.
Peach of the week. Favorite part of the show, not us 3 talking, not special guests or anything. It's what the last 3 people come in to watch. It's not the killer, binner or filler. It is Peach of the week, and this week there's only one peach, and it was this one. Look at that! Look at that
back end on that.
Look at the back end of that. I think out of all the peaches of the week, this is definitely up there with Nightwing's arse.
You know what? Like, I really wanted to represent a different area, because we have a guy bum, girl bum, even dog bum. Andy picked.
What a team up that would be! What a team up that's.
So I thought, you know what? Let's introduce a bit of metallic alloy bum. So this is Archie. Is her name Archie? So What can I say? There you go, guys. You're welcome.
Now, Firehawks just said, now that's a trunk, and it clearly looks like it's full of junk. There is junk.
Can I just say,
in
to
that
find
trunk.
this, I had to read Transformers and My Little Pony, the crossover comic.
Yeah.
Read.
Oh, I've got it wrong, haven't I? I put Transformers 29. No, it was My Little Pony Transformers crossover. I wasn't even going to go near it, but it's not Archie. It's Archie, as in Archie. But I've got to say, Ben, I think this is a very welcomed addition. After my all power to women superheroes last week, this is quite refreshing to see the back end of a Archie.
And interestingly enough, it's kind of a 2-for-1 because it's got a beautiful set of rims as well.
It has.
Hey guys, it's an Autobot.
Right, get them off quick.
On that note, guys, it's been another decent show. It was very good. I think I do need to work on this time zone thing because it definitely said 5 p.m. I'll have to look on the converter and stuff.
I don't think Google has put their clocks back.
I don't think they have.
We put the clocks back. I don't think Google have bothered.
No, I don't think they have. So we're 11 o'clock here, so it should be 6 o'clock there, 7 o'clock there. I don't know. But it happened. I'm going to now hand over to you guys. We have got Andy up first. I know you're Mr. Impromptu Perpetual, but I'm going to give you the solo screen. You can tell me what you've got coming up, what you haven't got coming up. If you have got anything coming up, if you haven't, it's all yours, mate.
Yeah, I haven't put a video out in 2 weeks, whether it be impromptu or otherwise. So things have been a bit crazy, but you're more than welcome to go and look at my other videos, please, on YouTube and give me a sub up. You can find me on Instagram at perpetual.comics. And I've also just done a video with Luke from Hydra Collectibles where we review Battle Royale, which is one of my favourite movies, and I believe that's going to be dropping on his channel on Tuesday. So make sure you go check that out and sub him up as well.
Wicked. And Benjamin or Nefastu or Dracula or
Nefastu.
Nefastu.
Don't worry, let's just give up.
Look a bit tired there, Ben.
To Hydra Collectibles at 6 p.m. On Tuesday because I'm really looking forward to that chat, Andy. I, of course, went on there and spoke about Space Jam for an hour. So, but anyway, yes, Sunday, 5 p.m. GMT. Don't Google what time that will be in America because that'll probably be wrong. But I will be posting my usual Crampton's covers where I pick my top 3 covers of the week's new books. That's it.
All good. And yeah, so myself, I am on Nick the Comic Nerds channel on Monday at 8 p.m. So that's going to be interesting, talking about everything comics. That's going to be amazing. He's a proper down-to-earth guy like us, so it's going to be really enjoyable. So make sure you head over to his YouTube channel for that at 8 p.m. to see this Cockney mug if you haven't had enough of him from your Monday morning show at 12 p.m. where I will be dropping the top comic releases for week number 18. I've got some fantastic comics coming out, and then obviously the Killer Comic Show next Thursday. We have got another special guest bonanza. We've got not one special guest, but we've got 2 special guests, and it's all thanks to the man to the left of me for sorting this out on Twitter. We have Richard Dueck and we have Alex McCormack, who are the writer and illustrator for the fantastic Sea of Sorrows for IDW. So it is IDW, isn't it?
Yep.
It is IDW, yes. And that's going to be great. We're going to be sitting down. We're going to be picking their brains, delving into their dark thoughts, because you've got to be seriously messed up to think of a comic like that. And there's probably going to be a song that's going to stick into your head a lot longer than the intro to this video and the intro to my top comic releases video. So make sure you do tune in for that.
Full disclosure as well, guys. Don't expect me to come dressed as a mermaid because I haven't.
Not again. Not again.
No, not again.
It's probably worth saying, Charlie, that issue 5 of Sea of Sorrows came out this week.
Yesterday, yeah.
So it gives everybody the opportunity to go and pick it up and have read it. I've been talking up Sea of Sorrows for a long while. It's absolutely fantastic. Issue 5 definitely didn't disappoint. So make sure you go pick out that issue, and we'll have a good chat with Rich and the guys.
And I will tell you that there are going to be spoilers galore next week for Sea of Sorrows.
Spoilers.
We're going to talk from Sea of Sorrows 1 to 5. We're going to talk about the fantastic back issue cover for Sea of Sorrows number 5, because if you wasn't scared enough, make sure you pick up the back issue of number 5. The cover is amazing. So we're looking forward to that. So we have that next week, and then the week after, it's us four. It's going to be us four, because I think Tom is back for that one. So that'll be us. And then on the 20th, we have the one and only John Boy Mayers. He's going to be joining us to talk all things comic, videos, and everything else that he's been working on. So it's a packed month coming up for us guys over at Killer Comics. So make sure you do hit the subscribe button, give us the thumbs up, follow these two guys and myself over on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to Not Quite Mint, because he's got some fantastic boxes still available. I think there's one box. He's also got the standard shipping for comics as well, so you're getting your June and your July pre-orders in as well. So it's all happening for us guys. We've got so much going on. So yes,
I've got one more thing that I forgot.
It,
if that's all right.
Would you like the solo screen?
No, it's cool. Sunday at 7:00 on Scott Shelf's channel. He's doing an auction to raise money for Mind Charity, which is a charity very close to my heart. I'd highly recommend that you go over there on Sunday, pick up some books, because it's all for a great cause. And
or just donate anyway, because it's a great cause. You can go on there now. You can go on the link and just donate anyway. So
yeah,
I'm literally just going to drop the link in there now. Yep. So that is when is that? Is that Monday it's Tuesday?
Sunday.
It's Sunday at
2nd.
7 p.m. So make sure you check in for that. That's going to be great. It's going to be, I think, knowing Scott, he's probably going to have some decent comics to bid on and stuff like that. And he has said that if it's going well, he's got more to throw into the pot as well. So it's all for a great cause. It's going to be very interesting. So make sure you head over to that, guys. It's been fantastic. It's the highlight of my Thursday, spending time with you. Massive love to everyone in the chat. Massive love to everyone in the chat. And again, a shout out to David Byrne for jumping on and talking to us misfits. These teeth literally lasted about 10 minutes. That was a waste of £7 from Amazon. So I'm now going to put them back in, sleep with them, and then scare the kids in the morning, because I need to get my money's worth. So guys, that's it from me. I don't know what catchphrase to say now, because I've had to change it because bloody Keith Lemon's jumped on a fucking YouTube channel. So I can't say if I see through the window. I can't say it no more, because I don't really want a fucking...
No, you had that idea with me. What was it?
Yeah, and then I kind of said it, and I was like, remember people, it's cool to be geeky, but I'm not sure I'm sold on that yet.
Yeah, it doesn't sound as good out loud.
I might cheer on it.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Come up with some ideas for a new catchphrase for Charlie and the Killer Comic Show.
Because I can't say if I see you for a week, I'll see you through the Geeky Guy window now, because I'll wake up and I'll have like the fucking Urban Fox knocking at my door or something like that. I don't know. If it's Holly Willoughby knocking at my door, I'm happy with that, but I doubt it. It's going to be a little ginger man with a little hand car strapped on. So, who knows?
This escalated quite quickly, guys. I have no idea what just happened.
On that note, I need to come up with a new catchphrase. If there's any comics you guys want us to review, drop it in the link, drop it in the chat, hit us up over on Instagram, drop us DMs, and we'll get to them comics. As always, it's a fantastic Thursday. Thanks for sitting with us for an hour, nearly 2 hours. And yeah, if I don't see you for a week, I'll see you next week on the Killer Comic Show. Bye.